Anyways, you are with me live, and me is Joe. So by being live with Joe, you are having a cup of Joe with me, hopefully. Anyways, um, this is a show. It's a podcast, not a broadcast. So we have a little bit more latitude than the FCC allows. Although we try to keep this a pretty much PG show, but it goes wherever it needs to. To be honest, there's a lot of problems that I wish people were a little bit more outraged about. And we're going to talk about that today a little bit, maybe a lot of it. This show is brought to you by the Human Solution International. We're a 501c3 nonprofit civil rights organization that apparently plenty of people don't have any idea what we do. I'm going to try to fix that. Hopefully you guys can help me fix that. Spent a lot of time doing this show. Been doing this show for 5 years now, or some version of it. And every single week, every single show, I spend a lot of time talking about what we're about, what the human solution is, what we do, what we don't do. And yet I get hit all the time. What is it that you guys do? And I got to wonder to myself, how is it that I've failed at communicating what it is that we do? So I'm going to ask for your help to help correct that. Because clearly, if I'm unable to do it on my own, I would certainly like some people to help. Maybe we can solve the problem of what is the human solution and what do we do. Anyhow, we're streaming. Let's see if I can get us over there. We're streaming on YouTube right now on the, what do you call it? The Human Solution channel. Go figure. We're actually streaming from the Human Solution channel. So I'm about to share this on, looks like my feed. Let's see if I can do that. You're going to have to put up with me for a moment. And then I'm going to try to share it on a couple of other things too. So we're going to try to send it over to the public figure page, see if it'll do that. So I'm hoping that whoever's on the line, if you're listening and you want to engage this conversation, the Human Solution International has been around for 10 years. I don't know, 10 times 365, that's a lot of days. And we have impacted hundreds of people's lives, probably thousands of people's lives when you take the exponential factor of each individual that we have impacted. And we have had, over the course of 10 years, thousands of members. And I just can't help but wonder, how is it that who we are, what we do, isn't painfully clear? So if you want to help answer that question, the question is, who are we? What do we do? What do you want from me? I believe was the specific question that came from somebody outside of our little circle jerk, outside of our choir, as they call it. One of the issues that we have, and we all have always had in the social media, paradigm that we live in now, is probably partly to blame. But as anybody who knows me knows, that I'll always accept the blame for something if I had anything to do with it, because maybe then I can be corrected. The social media phenomenon brings certain types of people together that either very much like each other and agree with everything they say, or it brings people that are very disharmonious into an arena, and they cause problems, the trolls and the haters and the whatnot. And I want to talk about haters and criticism for a minute, but I'm still trying to post this while I'm talking. And I'm not sure if it's going to let me send it to any place else. Oh, here we go. It looks like it will. Give me 1 second here, folks. And it's going on my public page now, too. So hopefully you guys can share that around a little bit. Lisa's doing the Facebook thing. So, yeah, we got a couple people on. Good job. Thank you for finding it. And if we share it around, if you connect with the chat thing on there, I can see that one. That's the one I see. Lisa's managing the other one. So we have a guest today, hopefully, that's supposed to be calling in, Macy Tomlin. And Macy was born in southern Wisconsin. She was a political activist sitting with the medicine of ayahuasca in early 2016. And since this time, she's followed 6 months of strict plant dietas in the Shipibo tradition in Peru. She was apprenticed under world-renowned shaman Maestro Ricardo Amaringo, and she now organizes spiritual retreats in Mexico where various healing modalities are offered, and she has a deep passion for helping others in their ceremonial processes through bringing medicine and men and women together to help to assist them in ceremonial space. And this is an important thing. You know, people many times, when I say no one should go to jail for a plant, people go, "Whoa, what about the coca plant? What about the opium poppy?" Yeah, those two. What about the ayahuasca plant? Yep, that one too. What about the peyote? That one too. What about morning glory seeds? Yep, those two. What about banana peels or anything else somebody decides they want to grow and ingest in any way they see fit? Yeah, those two. No one should go to jail for a plant, period. And that's part of what the human solution is about. I know it's kind of a tough concept for people to get a hold of and people to grasp, but this is truly about liberty. It's about freedom. It's about inalienable rights bestowed upon us by our Creator. However you see that to be doesn't even matter. What matters is that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a human being, we're born with that, those basic rights. And if we don't seek to take them away from somebody else, I can't see why our government or anybody else's government or anybody else for that matter should seek to take them away from us. And if I choose to grow a plant, whatever plant it might be, that comes from the earth, that is a seed or a cutting or a tissue culture, it doesn't matter how it gets generated. It could be a spore. You know, mushrooms are a plant. Oh, they're a fungus, but they're as close to a plant as you can get. And frankly, I don't think any of them should be a criminal act in and of themselves. What I do think should be a criminal act is when somebody does something harmful to another person. And so if somebody intentionally or unintentionally poisons somebody, and whether it's because of neglect or because of malice, and somebody is sick, hurt, or dies because of a poisoning that came from any substance, whether it's a plant or not, I believe those people should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And I would never stand behind somebody who caused harm to somebody. But in every single one of these cases that I'm talking about, the state, the federal government, whatever agency is bringing charges around, have always failed to produce a victim. And in the closest thing to a victim there could be would be the evasion of taxes. Well, in my opinion, as it is, and this is my show, so I get to have my opinion, and it's your show too, so you actually get to have your opinion too if you like one. I don't think this plant should be taxed any more than anything else. And by that, I'm not saying that there should not ever be any taxes. I'm saying that the tax that would be bestowed upon a marigold plant that might be used medicinally or for the purpose of being an insect repellent or whatever other useful plant might be, I think that it should be taxed in a similar way. As a food source, I believe it should be taxed as other food sources are. As an over-the-counter type of a medicine, tax it the way other over-the-counter type medicines are. But what we always do, and what we've somehow fallen prey to, is this notion of we got to treat it like alcohol. We got to treat it like it's a sin. We got to treat it with a sin tax. We've got to treat it as though it's a dangerous substance. So go look up your little Google buttons and see how many people die every year from alcohol and alcohol-related illnesses and injuries. And you will come up with a number. I don't know what the number is, but I know it's greater than 0, and it's a true number. So therefore, alcohol could be regarded as a dangerous substance. Now, as a dangerous substance, it's not a scheduled substance. It does not fall anywhere in the Controlled Substances Act. So there's no real connection to that. However, it's a regulated substance. We actually have a bureau dedicated to alcohol and tobacco, and they put that together with firearms. Go figure that one out. That's a whole nother conversation that I do want to have one day. I do want to talk about firearms and cannabis. We've talked about it a little bit before, but one day we'll get into it. Anyways, alcohol is heavily regulated and heavily taxed, and you must have a license to sell it. And if you don't have a license to sell it, you can be charged with a crime. Is it a crime that you would face a life sentence for? Oh no. I don't know what the crime, what the actual charge is of selling alcohol without a license, but my guess is it's some kind of a misdemeanor. If it's a felony, it's certainly a low-grade felony, and it's certainly not anywhere in the league of cannabis, which, as we know, or hopefully we know by now, can carry a life sentence. And even as recently as I think last year, or the year before, we had a cannabis user that was convicted of a cannabis crime that was sentenced to life in prison. So this is my opinion, and this is essentially the thought of the human solution, is that our rights, our inalienable rights, should not fall short of what they are. Because here's the deal, and I'm going to read a blog post that was just posted yesterday that encapsulates that a little bit. But as the United States is gung-hoing to a world of taxation and regulation and quote-unquote legalization, if you look to see what that actually does, the actual effect of these legislative acts, you will find that probably more people will become criminals than ever were before, because what they want or need or will do will fall outside of what the law allows. And generally speaking, we find that the taxation level, the tax rates, especially in California, of the so-called legal and licensed dispensaries and farms and all of this actually price many people that need this plant out of being able to have it. Believe it or not, folks, there is a huge number of people that live on fixed incomes in America. And by that, I mean they receive some pension or government aid or Social Security or some sort of disability or some kind of income that is stuck. It's fixed. And most of the people that live in a fixed income situation are living minute to minute, check to check. And they don't have any of what we call expendable income that is used on luxury items, things that you don't absolutely need. Well, when all of a sudden you can go, when generally speaking, like today's market, cannabis has gotten very cheap compared to what it used to be, especially on the black market. So let's just say black market cannabis that used to cost $300-400 an ounce now costs between $70 and $150 an ounce, maybe $200 for the best of the best. That's something that's more or less affordable, and you can find even much more affordable than that. You can find ounces for $50. If you look for the right thing, and if what you need is doesn't afford you the luxury of being a pot snob, then I guarantee you can find cannabis at an affordable price. But you got to be willing to break the law to do it. The second you walk into the legal market, you're dealing with tax on top of tax on top of tax, and it's not going to be so affordable. So that's the nature of the beast here, folks. And here's another little kicker, and it's a kind of an interesting one. All of the laws that have been passed, and if you can just take a minute and read them, what they make legal, generally speaking, without there being, and it's a big thing. I mean, it's certainly any step's a good step, unless it keeps you from getting all the way home. When you're dealing with these new legislative acts, what you find is that what becomes legal is the possession of these things, not necessarily the cultivation, usually on a very limited scope cultivation, definitely not sales, generally not transportation, generally not manufacturing, just simple possession. So for most people's purpose, the second you have purchased an illegal cannabis, you're okay. If you don't get caught actually buying it or selling it, once you have it, you're fine. That we did accomplish. So good job on that. We made it easier to be illegal and switch over to legal, because the second you have it, they're never going to ask you where you got it. They don't have a right to do that. So I can possess an ounce of pot and have it anywhere in California, and it's a traffic ticket. However, if I take that same cannabis that I could have and get caught selling it without a license, I'm committing a felony act. So just be mindful of what these laws say and what they don't say. I think it's really important. We're going to get deeper into that. But I want to get to the core. We're going to be talking more and more about the plant, and even other plants for that matter. We're going to be talking about freedom. We're going to be talking about civil liberties and civil rights, and why we do what we do, why the human solution exists. We're here to educate and support victims of the drug war. We're here to support prisoners. We're here to support defendants, and we're here to bring about the end of cannabis prohibition and an age of liberty and freedom. I don't know how hard that is to understand. Been saying it for a lot of years, but apparently it hasn't soaked in, it hasn't sunk in, and hopefully we can get past it. So if you can help me explain that better, more clearly, please let me know. All right, we got a bunch of guests on the line, and we got our main guest hasn't called in yet, but we got Creed Leffler. He's going to join us real quick. We got Chris Birdsall, and we got Mike Harris. He's got an update on his court case, which is going to be exciting. We've been following this for more than a year now, and we're making some big progress. So let's start off. Actually, I want to hear what Mike has to say first. Then we'll go to Creed, and then Chris, and we'll talk about. Looks like New York is banning CBD edibles. There we go, folks. It's legal. No, it's not. It's not going to be legal till we end it, till we end the criminality of the cannabis plant, period. Otherwise, this same crap's going to keep popping up. I keep saying it. All right, let's see what Mike Harris has to say. Mike Harris, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Oh, good, Joe. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Above ground, breathing, and currently out of custody.
Yeah, well, that's always good.
So tell us what's happening with your case. I understand we've had some progress. It's over.
Finito.
Okay, and what does that mean?
The city declined to appeal after losing,
Woo-hoo!
having their ordinance stripped down to nothing.
Excellent.
That's not. I wanted them to appeal because the whole goal was to have this become a precedent.
Right.
I do this really for myself.
Well,
as it is, today was the last day in court, and it was just the lawyers hashing over how much my firm had billed, not my firm, but my legal team had billed the city. The initial bill was $230,000.
whoa.
And they haggled on it for a while, and the judge listened to both arguments. He tentatively agreed to accept our billing, but was willing to listen to whether or not what parts were fair, how much per hour, and all that. So it was, I guess, like making sausage time for about 3 hours. And what it ended up, long story short, it ended up being $106,300 something dollars.
Whoa.
That the city is owed to the legal fees.
Nice.
Now, all of that money, because my initial law firm that took on the case, O'Mell, Daney and Myers, did it pro bono, and as well as the DPA and the ACLU. But what basically it is all money that is going to go both to the ACLU and the DPA for. And Daney and Myers are going to turn over their end of it to donate to the
Excellent. Hey, listen, Mike, I've got Craig Cecil calling in, but I want to finish this conversation. If you can hang on, I would love to finish this up. Hello, Craig. How's it going today?
Hello, Joe. We're well over here in Indiana.
No more getting called out. Last time you got cut off a little short.
Yes. I'm not sure what that was all about, but we've had a change of the management here, the security management. There's been a bunch of crazy stuff. The only really bad thing is, like I told you, a lot of inmates are getting beat up, so I'm expecting, before it's all over, that it's probably going to get bad.
So, and this has to do with people ratting on each other for other kinds of drugs?
No, it's the staff members, the actual prison guards are beating up inmates. Sometimes, almost all the time, the inmates that are getting beat up, they're puffed up and have their legs shackled up, and then they'll get 4 or 5 of them and beat them up.
Whoa! And is there some kind of a common thread? Is there something we can bring attention to?
There really isn't. It just seems that I think it's basically coming from the management, because unfortunately they won't even allow the inmates to file a complaint on it.
Wow.
And, I got hit last year by that officer, and I still haven't been able to file a complaint.
Wow. It's funny. I've got such a problem of apathy and unawareness out here. I keep having people wonder about what it is that we do, and people are busy thinking everything's okay and everything's legal, and they don't realize that this kind of corruption and this kind of travesty is happening out there. So we're
they just don't realize what's going on.
No, they just don't get it. They don't know.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but 2 of our favorite friends out there, Dee and Chelsea, put together a marijuana museum, a marijuana lifers museum, actually in a grow operation. So people get to actually see that. Here they're buying marijuana, but at the same time, they can visit the distributors and people like me serving life for marijuana.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are linking the two together.
Yep. And Chelsea has been a guest on the show. And as you know, Dee Dee and I are very close. Dee Dee has kept me in the loop on everything. In fact, I think she's got a press release that's about to be released that's talking about this museum and how we're working together on a case out of Michigan, Michael Thompson's case. It's a state case of all things, and it's a ridiculous case. It's as ridiculous as your case, and it's even on a state level in Michigan where cannabis is legal with giant quotes around it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense a whole lot of times. I have in front of me an article I just cut out of the Wall Street Journal about where they locked up 2 marijuana store owners in Colorado. They said they were allowing people to do looping, which apparently means they buy whatever the maximum amount of marijuana you can buy at one time is, but then they'll leave and loop back and buy more and more and more throughout the day. And I guess they've arrested the owners and they sent them to prison for that, for allowing people to loot in their stores.
Well, and that's the thing is, and I talk about this every week, and I sometimes wonder how many people are actually listening. But every single one of these laws that have been passed falls horribly short of actually making something not a criminal act. What they do is they allow for a very limited scope of something to happen. And anything outside of that is still completely illegal in a criminal act. And people don't realize that, these couple of cases got some news press, but there's constantly raids and people getting arrested and people getting charged. And there's still today in so-called legal states, people going to prison every week for pot crimes.
And as you know, I'm looking around here and seeing them. One of my buddies here was locked up in Michigan, and his crime was he owned a business that basically helped set up medical marijuana grow operations.
There you go.
They convicted of conspiring to distribute marijuana through that.
Yeah, and that's, again, that's another thing that, I use your case as an example a lot to people, but people don't realize, and also Aaron Sandusky's case, the conspiracy laws are a frightening prospect because people don't realize, you think, oh, well, I just got hit with conspiracy. People don't realize that conspiracy conviction carries the same weight of the thing you were conspiring against. It's you might as well have done it if you thought about doing it or talked about doing it. It's the same thing, but it's even worse because they can use hearsay evidence in a conspiracy case, whereas in an actual, if you're being charged with the actual crime, they can't use hearsay evidence in the same manner. And it happens over and over again. In Aaron's case, I think he had I forget, it was 8 or 9 counts, and the jury was locked up for a couple of days, and then finally they came back and they only hit him on the conspiracy case charges, which ended up giving him a 10-year sentence.
Unfortunately, it's worse to get convicted of conspiracy than it is possession, because sentences are, at least in part, based on how much marijuana is, involved in the crime.
Right.
And in a possession case, it's real easy to figure out how much they arrested the person with. I mean, they weigh it, and it's a finite amount.
Right.
Unfortunately, in a conspiracy, it's any marijuana you could have imagined as part of the crime. In my crime, I'm convicted of 30,000 kilos of marijuana, 10,000 to 30,000, because their estimates were so rough.
You're an animal.
You really believe that marijuana probably didn't even exist.
Well, but it could have, so might as well put you away for it.
It's true, because that is an awful lot of marijuana.
Well, you know what, though? Here's the deal, and this is the thing that I say all the time, and that's what really breaks my brain in half when people don't know what the hell we're about. What if you did have 30,000 kilos? You know, the only way you could have hurt somebody with 30,000 kilos of pot is if you dropped it on them. That's it. Or if you made a rope out of it and tied them up and strapped them to a train track and waited for the train to run them over. I mean, that amount of cannabis, even though it seems like, whoa, it's so much, it still can't hurt you. Even that much can't hurt you. So I still don't understand. I can't wrap my head around the severity of the punishment of this, you know, and I think all drugs should be legal. I don't think that there should be any substance on the planet that should be considered illegal. I think people's personal acts are what should be judged. And if you cause harm to somebody, that should be judged harshly. But just simply possessing something, doesn't matter what it is. I don't care what it is. I don't see a crime in possessing something. I don't care how potentially dangerous it is. And, you know, but that's what people can't seem to wrap their heads around.
I remember when I was in college, I was the bookkeeper for my fraternal group there. And we were throwing a huge party where we charged admission and it was free beer. And I had to order beer for close to 10,000 people.
Whoa.
It was two trucks. It was two trucks, refrigerated trucks, and they had taps down the side. And, you know, you would tap the beer right out of the side of these trucks at this big outside party we had. But, you know, here that day, under my name, we bought, you know, thousands of dollars worth of beer.
Right.
And nobody looked twice.
No, it was legal.
Twice. It was obviously to be distributed.
Well, and you know what? That beer, just beer alone, probably one of the weakest alcohol drinks there are, could have, if there was enough alcohol in that beer to probably kill an amount of people, whatever that number was, might have been 100 people that you could have killed if you pumped them full of that much beer. And yet, if that same weight would have been cannabis, that wouldn't be the case. And yet, your act was simply a social act that was completely within the boundaries of the law, and everybody smiled and tipped their hat to you, I bet.
That's true. And I told you how I compare what I see in the prison all the time. The average sentence for a bank robber is 60 months, 5 years. But I look at it, if the person had walked in the bank and instead of taking the money, he gave marijuana to the teller, he'd be faced with a sentence of up to life imprisonment.
Exactly.
What makes sense of it?
No, there's no sense at all. And you know, we're getting more and more people that are confirming that they sent letters to their elected official based off of your letter, and whether it's your letter specifically or actually what's really great is I've got a number of people that have called me up and said, hey, you know, that's a nice template, but I'd rather write my own letter. And I encourage that. So we're starting to get some people sending in versions of their own letters that they've sent, and it's all going up on the website to you know, to share with other people.
That's even better.
Yeah.
That's even better than the form letter. That's fantastic.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, is encourage people to you know, to participate more.
Did you notice last night, who I believe it right at the moment is probably our best prisoner advocate is Alice Johnson, appeared at the State of the Union address last night with President Trump. And now she's a little bit older than me. I think she's 63 years old. I'm 59. But she's been in prison for 21 years as a first-time offender on a cocaine charge.
Right.
And Donald Trump was convinced that, you know, that sentence just didn't fit for her or the crime. It sent her home, and she has been appearing everywhere. I mean, I see her in so many different events. She's made believers out of people, you know, hardline people like Mark Levin and Sean Hannity that were against, you know, changing people's sentences. And she's convinced them that many people are in prison that their sentences just, you know, just don't match the crime. And she has just been such a great spokesperson. She's right up there with the likes of
Amy and Stephanie and the other people that have gotten out and, reached back to those of us still in prison.
Well, that's one of the most troubling things that I've had to deal with is that so many people that we've helped, either as defendants or as prisoners, when they get out, boom, they just disappeared. You don't ever hear from them again. And I've been working with George Martirano since he got out, and he's been quite an advocate. And I know Jeff Mazansky's been doing a good job. And now that this woman as well, I mean, I think that's what we need is the people that have been the most affected out there, beating the drum. And, we got to get momentum. And that's, I think, the hardest thing. You got half the world or half the nation going, yeah, we're already done. People don't believe that these things are even still happening. And yet, if it hits the right media, if it hits the right place, and I would imagine the State of the Union address would have been a pretty well viewed event. So I'm very pleased to hear that.
Yes, I mean, and like I say, she is quite an ambassador for us prisoners. She makes such a compelling story, and she just so
well, she hits all the brackets too, of all the targets of people that are, being vocal about their rights right now, and rightly so. She's kind of the golden child for that. She hits all the buckets. Well, you got your first beep already, Craig, so I don't want to take up your time.
But thank you for encouraging people to send those letters to their congressman. Like I say, that is something we can make such a common sense argument out of. Why does a violent crime only, carry up to 20 years in prison, but yet a marijuana charge carries life as long as somebody doesn't die? And I think we should, at least if the whole idea of the drug laws was to stop violent crime, let's make them so that they both bear the same penalty. And thank you for people reaching out to their Congress.
Hey, that was probably the best close we've had in a while. So many times we're talking and, I lose track of time and we get yapping away. And then all of a sudden the second beep comes and Craig gets cut off before he finishes his thought. But today it was almost like we timed it. So I feel much better about that. All right, we're going to get back to Mike, and he's going to complete the thought about this. And I have a little thought I want to add to it. Then we've got Creed Leffler and then Chris Birdsall coming in. I want to hear what you have to say about the human solution. What's your elevator pitch? Somebody asks you, so what is it that you do? Or what do you want me to do? What do you say? What's your answer to them? Let's get this down. I want to talk about why we keep getting our asses kicked, why we keep falling short, why we keep losing when it comes to the courts, when it comes to the media, when it comes to just about anything. And I think a lot of it has to do with being prepared. And we're going to talk about that. So anyways, let's get back to Mike. So Mike Harris, here we go. So Mike, you they dismissed the case. They announced $100 and what was the total figure? $100 and some $1,000 in court fees.
It was over $106,000.
Wow! And then because the attorneys that were representing the case had done it pro bono, that these funds are going to be donated to the ACLU and what, the DPA.
Yeah.
So that's quite a
exactly what it's
that's quite a donation. That worked out well.
Yeah, they're looking up with probably close to $50,000.
Wow.
What you were talking about that, what it did have an impact in the case in the courtroom. So they had like 26 different things on the docket, but the third thing on was a thing called B Street Equities, which is basically a woman named Smith that she got a bit of notoriety when they found out that she was renting the old Pac Bell building in San Bernardino with 26,000 plants. But she was only a landlord, so nobody ever touched her. And then she started initiative drives all around the place. And she got a hold of our lawyers, and they exchanged information, and now she's got a case that is using all of my strategy and template to do the same thing in the neighboring city of Colton.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up is, you know, as much as I believe the city didn't appeal this as a defensive move, I think that they did that on purpose to keep it from becoming a precedent. I think they probably...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that was their way of getting...
They bet on the wrong horse.
Exactly. And so, you know, generally the appellate court generally favors one side over another. I mean, the appellate court tends to be more fair than the civil or the criminal court, in my opinion. And I think that they would have stood less of a chance. They would have probably gotten ruled against, and it would have become precedent. But like you say, and this is what the point I wanted to bring up, was that the fact that you guys did this and the fact that you did it successfully just means that there's a cookie cutter template, just like we do with letter writing, just like we do with how to do a protest, how to do all different kind of things. We have templates for these things now. Now you have a template of how to file a civil suit against an oppressive ordinance.
Yeah, it's certainly not for the lighthearted. You have to have some deep pockets in order to do this because lawyers are very expensive. But Mrs. Smith, it does have those pockets because she is a landlord of sorts. That's her business. Is she rents to grow spaces. And
right.
Apparently, she's been quite successful over the years with it.
Well, like you say, I think one of the good things that comes out of the law that we have is that it creates the door, a wedge in the door that gives us an opportunity, gives us a leg to stand on. And the law...
That's exactly it.
And right. Before, you didn't have a case. I mean, you could fight the medical standing on it, but that wasn't broad sweeping. It only applied to qualified patients, where in this case, that's not the case. It affects everybody. So, that's unfortunate, or I don't know. It's just the way it is. I don't know if it's fortunate or not. It's just the way the world works right now, and it's how to make progress using the political system, using the court system. And I applaud you. This was a 100% success, minus the appeal and the final peg in it. But we have established a template, and it's certainly worthy of repeating.
I hope so. I hope it's made a ripple somewhere.
Well, I think I don't know what the stats are, but I've heard before that in California, the number of cities that have oppressive ordinances or all-out bans far outweighs the cities that have allowed there to be licensing and some sort of quote-unquote legal operation. And so, once again, you're going to have cities that don't have any access to their people. And, Prop 215 gave better access than some of these new bans have now. So I think that, it's going to hopefully spark off a wildfire in California. That shouldn't be hard to do.
Yeah, there's one thing that is in Amendment 64, I guess is what you call it now, not Prop 64, is that they allow cities to ban outdoor growing. But there's a caveat to that, and it's in the proposition. If cannabis is removed from the Controlled Substance Act, all bets are off, and there is no restriction on growing in your backyard.
Absolutely.
They can't do it.
Right. There wouldn't be a
When
reason.
that happens, and that's the linchpin is the federal CSA.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And that's been the target of our, of our efforts, of our political efforts anyways, would be just that. We need to take it off that CSA, and not Schedule 2, not Schedule 3, not Schedule 4, not even Schedule 5. It needs to come off. And then...
Chuck Grassley is out of the way, so there's one impediment.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, I'm tickled that this is all played out. I'm hoping that you're taking full advantage of that, and I'd love to hear about that on the side one day.
Yeah, Fight Club. I remember that.
Excellent. All right, I appreciate everything that you're doing, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Talk to you later, Joe.
All right, Mike Harris, folks. Okay, so let's see. We got Creed Leffler up, and we were going to try to get him into the feed, but somehow that didn't work out. But let's see what Creed has to say. I told him I'd get him in by 6, and it's before 6. Creed Leffler, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
Hi, Creed.
Can you help me get reading the partner together the pandemic? Operator, help me out there. Operator, could you repeat that? I didn't get that. Can you help me out a little bit? Because it looks like we need to partner up. Mike Harris, can you help me out a little bit? Because it looks like we need to partner up.
Well, Mike dropped off the line, but I have a direct access to him. He's a personal friend, so I am certain that we can arrange that, at least to get you in communication with him.
Okay. I have 7,316 signatures right now. Can we please try and get up to 8,000? Because I have had no movement in the past couple weeks because I've been working on other things. But thanks for all of your help, and sorry I'm not on video tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to do, Lisa's going to go back to your petition, and she's going to post it on the Facebook feed. I'm not talented enough to do 3 things at once, so I can barely sit and talk at the same time. So Lisa's going to go get your petition. She's going to post it up on the Facebook live stream feed, and we're going to hopefully we've had a lot of new listeners come on to the show, and there'll be a bunch of new people that haven't seen or signed it before. So we will definitely be glad to do that.
And we were supposed to get it up on the website a couple weeks ago.
Okay, I don't know. Becca's been working hard on the website, and I will if it hasn't gotten up there, I haven't seen it up there, but I will we're going to be talking tomorrow, and I will see if we can't get it up there, because I definitely, one of the things that we're trying to do, Creed, is establish projects that we're doing with other people and other groups. And, we like working with you. You've got a lot of heart, and I like the way that you focus your attention on this cause, and we're proud to have you be part of this team. So definitely want to get your project up there with some of the other ones that we're doing. And this is the year of unity in the community, so we're putting it all together, and we're going to bring it home. We're going to end that prohibition. What do you say? All right, Creed Leffler, folks. Hopefully, we'll see if we can do next week and have you included in the stream. But we'll get you one of these days, and I'll talk to Becca about the the website, and your project. All right. Thanks, Green. All right. So if you want to call in this show, it's really easy. All you got to do is pick up your phone. You know, that thing that we used to have, it's a phone. And you just dial 646-929-2495. And we have our superhero screener, non-compliant Mary. And she will be very non-compliant. So don't ask her to do anything too specific because she'll probably say, forget you. Anyways, I want to hear from you. What's the human solution? What's your elevator pitch? What can I do? What do you want me to do to help? You know, that's a pretty straightforward question from somebody who obviously wasn't paying attention. I feel pretty strongly that I've failed miserably at sharing that. I try to be a good communicator. In my own mind, I'm a pretty good communicator, but clearly I have fallen short. So I need your help, folks. I need to know from your point of view, what is the human solution? What is it that we do, and what can you do to help? What do you want me to do? I think was the specific question. All right. So let's, I got a little bit of rambling time here, and then we got Chris Birdsall up next. I don't know what happened to my guest. Hopefully she shows up. So I'm always talking about Facebook and how much I can't stand it. And I was listening to somebody this morning, and it got brought to my attention how important something like Facebook is. And my reason for not liking Facebook is all the haters and all the toxic people that just have nothing to say but criticism. They don't, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to do, they've got something that shoots it down. And people that are like that to me are kind of hard, because I try to be a positive person. I try to look at the good in everything. And when somebody has nothing to say about what's wrong, it's like, look, I didn't marry you and you're not my kid, so you don't have that right to tell me about what's wrong about everything. So it kind of gets to me. It makes me not want to be around you if that's how you are. So my answer to most things is go away from those things that you find distasteful and move on. But it turns out, and I've said this before and I've been aware of it, but sometimes it's important to hear from outside sources, things that are obvious and right in front of your nose. When you are being effective, you will garner criticism. And if you're not getting criticized, you're probably not being effective, or at least not enough. If everybody you know agrees with you, then you're not reaching anybody new. And so, and if you don't have a hater, if you don't have somebody that outright despises you for what you do, then you're really not getting it done. And so I proudly can say I've had a lot of haters since I've jumped out onto this forum, into this mission. Since I've become a dyed-in-the-wool activist, I've had people that have called me the devil incarnate, that have accused me of things I didn't ever do. They've attacked me in every way you could imagine. And at the time it happened, it stings, and you don't, want to deal with it, so you just don't. But the truth now, I look back on it and I say to myself, you know what? It's time for me to go out and get a couple of new haters, because I'm getting tired of the old ones. So I want to talk to you about, what are you doing to reach outside of our little choir? I'm more likely to call it a circle jerk than a choir, because, we're not really singing much. We're just stroking each other. And sorry to be crude, but it's a podcast. I can say that. If everybody that you hang around with nods when you talk and says, yeah, man, you're right, then you're not talking right. You're not reaching the right people, because those people that agree with you already agree with you. They're not going to help solve your problem unless unless you can inspire them to do something they're not doing. In which case, it's not so bad to talk to the choir. So if you're talking to the choir, why don't you think about a project or a plan or something that you can do to inspire them to maybe do a little bit something more. Ultimately, our collective voice needs to get outside of the rehearsal chamber, because that's where we're at right now. We're just rehearsing because we're not in front of an audience that disagrees with us. And it's that audience that disagrees with us that we need to reach. If we're not reaching them, what's going to change? How is it going to change? I don't know, but I'd like to hear about it. So if you pick up your phone and dial 646-929-2495, you can tell me all about it. Or you can pop on the YouTube live feed and you can tell me about it that way. So there's the haters. Do you realize that contained within the cells of your body is enough energy, the force of 30 hydrogen bombs? On a quantum level, the molecules that make up your body have that much potential energy in them. 30 atomic bombs. That's a lot of energy. And yet, look at us. We sit on our asses. We're late for everything. We don't do what we say. We don't do it the way we say we're going to do it. We're lethargic. We sit there and wag our fingers. That's about as much energy as you get out of most people. We're not creative. We don't take action. Where's all that energy going? I think we die and it just goes into the ground. Why not let some of it out? You know, you have that ability. You have that power. It's inside of you. Let some out. Show some life. Liven it up, folks. There's a lot to do here. There's a lot of work to do. We are nowhere near done with our work. Do you realize if you were to sit there and say to yourself, well, what is it that you guys do? And I talk about civil rights and I talk about freedom, but I look at it this way. There's two ways to go through life. One is you can drift. You can float around and react to things as they come your way. And you can let the world push you in one way or another. And you can, like I say, drift. Or you can move with intention and purpose. You can wake up every morning and say, here's what I'm going to do today. Well, what if what you set out to do was to bring joy to people that you know, people that you don't know, and the world in general? What if you just set out to bring some random basic joy to the world? Joy to the world. That's a theme of a number of songs. Joy. Well, think about joy and what brings about joy. And then let's think about the laws we've passed. Does paying high taxes and having to go through ridiculous hoops and being limited in what you can do bring you joy? Maybe it does. I don't want to live in your world if it does. You know what might bring me joy? It's just sheer freedom. When it comes to something that doesn't hurt anybody else, it's a logical leap. Joy. What brings you joy? Probably the ability to do what you want. You know, you think as a kid when you weren't able to do something and finally you got to do it. You turned 16, you got to drive a car. What did that give you? Joy. You turned 18, you got to vote. Or whatever it was. You turned 21, you got to drink. Joy. I get to do this thing. I feel it. What brings you joy? What brings you joy? Generally, at least for me, freedom, the ability to do things, the ability to be free. It's just in our nature. It's in our spirit. What if tomorrow you woke up and you set out with an intention to bring some joy to the world? Try it. What do you got to lose? All right, let's take a couple of calls and then I'll continue on. Whoops. What did I lose here? Somehow my screen went wacky.
There you go.
All right, we got Chris Birdsall. Chris is a Human Solution member. He's actually a sponsor. And Chris has, up until recently, had CBD ice, Italian ice, that he was using as a fundraiser. But apparently, in New York, they have passed some kind of a law, and I think he's going to tell us about it. Looks like we're starting to step on our rights. Chris Birdsall, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Oh, anytime. So tell us about what's going on in New York.
So, as you know from the last time we talked when I was on the show, I've been fighting in New York with the agricultural markets, with Department of Health, with pretty much everyone from the FDA on down for having CBD-infused foods. And they haven't been able to do anything. There is no law in New York. But what they're doing now is they just started in New York City as of today. They started enforcing it through the Department of Health in Manhattan County starting. And they're trickling down through other counties now, or up, I should say. What they're doing is they're threatening revocation of your health permit to have a food establishment if you don't take the CBD products off of your shelves and close your business down if you fail to comply with that.
Wow.
Bastards.
Wow. And it's what is their thought? I mean, what is their reasoning for it?
So this is going to blow your mind right here. So this is going to blow your mind. And I've been back and forth with these people 100 times, but they literally said in their statement today that CBD has been proven safe in oil, but they don't know if it's safe for them to take oil and put it in a food. That's their logic. That is their logic.
Oh my God!
It's been written. If you Google and go on CBS, and that's their statement from the director of Manhattan Department of Health, is that they haven't been proven that it's safe to take CBD oil and then consume it in food.
Wow.
Same thing that I can consume putting underneath my tongue somehow becomes a deadly, horrible, public tragedy for me to put in a muffin or a cannoli or Italian ice and then consume the same amount.
Oh,
it makes absolutely no sense.
Or in a brandy.
For me, it's posturing the way I believe it just to be. There's a lot of big interest in CBD now, a lot of very powerful corporations with a lot of big lobbies. And I really believe they're trying to squash out the competition before they come to market with their products.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's most likely, what's behind it all. We always say when you're looking at a candidate or an initiative or anything, follow the money, see what's behind it. And, I think you're absolutely right. Follow that money and you're going to find there's some giant money that is trying to clear a space for them to be without any competition.
Correct.
So,
that's what I'm on here to talk about. Basically, I can tell you they will drag me out in handcuffs from my establishment because I will produce CBD infused ices, Italian ices, cannolis, ice creams, hot sauces, oils, every other thing I make, literally until the day that they put me behind bars. They threatened first to send letters. I told them what I will do live on TV or live on the Facebook Live with their letters. It won't be pretty. Emails for children. So they're going to do that. And then when they, want to step up the efforts, we'll go head to head with this stuff. You kind of hit the point, and I'm kind of glad for this show because I think what you're missing in its purest form from the movement is the dominant American spirit, which is non-compliance.
Yep.
There's nothing that they could do. When you talk about taxes, if everyone just stopped paying taxes, there is nothing they can do.
Yep.
If we stop giving up our gun rights, there is nothing that they can do. If we just do not listen to their draconian marijuana laws, there is nothing that they can do to us.
That's what we're all about.
Segmented, and they make us fight, and they put these stories out on a daily basis, trying to get one side to hate the other, only because they need us separated. They want to decompartmentalize us and put us into these little segments where they can control us. But if we just say enough is enough, and we mean it, and we're willing to go to the end for it, just like our founding fathers did in this country, they're just going to back off. There's nothing they can do. They don't have enough prisons for profit to hold us all. So
well,
I here to talk about, which is non-compliance.
I couldn't agree more, and I want you to know. I'm sure you know this, but I want to be painfully clear that we stand behind you 100%. And if there's anything that we can do with putting out a press release, or if it comes time we need to put a protest up together or whatever it is, I personally, as the founder and CEO of this organization, say we're 100% behind you.
I appreciate that.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to get to is we were spawned out of a few people standing up for their rights and fighting cases. That's what I did. I went toe to toe with them for 6 friggin' years. And I came out the other side, and they stood down. And, when I was doing that, fighting for my own freedom, I was able to rally a lot of people. But now that my case is over and I'm not fighting for my own freedom, it seems that there's fewer and fewer people standing up. And we got the Glenn and Peggy Keeling in Ohio, and we're standing 100% behind them. And frankly, anybody that's willing to go up, and that, Mike Harris took a civil suit to his city in California. We were right behind with him. Anybody that's willing to stand up for what's right. And what is right, I'm sorry, folks, is freedom and liberty. That's it. That's all there is. Anything else, I'm sorry, you're selling out, and I'm not gonna quit. If there's a way for somebody to be locked up for this plant, then we're not done. That's all there is to
Amen.
it. So,
and that's the only issues I see on this side of the fence is the fact that people get pacified pretty easily, and everybody's real happy when, okay, I can just go down to the store and I can show my ID and I can buy some legal pot. But if I smoke it in my front yard, I can still get arrested for it. If I can a joint to someone else, I can still get arrested for it. And I think that we lose sight of what true freedom is. I mean, we haven't lived it in our lifetimes, so it's pretty hard for a lot of people to imagine it. But I'm on keel with you on a lot of things. The non-aggression principle. If there is no victim, there is no crime. So all plants should be legal, and I agree with that 100%. And all rights of someone to own whatever they want, do whatever they want, as long as they don't harm anyone else, is the way we were born to be. So anything short of that is ridiculous.
It's oppression, is what it is. It's tyranny and oppression, and that's what at one point we stood up against. And I look back in history. I'm a student of history, and there's been certain points in our history where we got upset enough, when we got oppressed enough, to stand up and reload. And unfortunately today the generations that are rising up today have had it so easy, and they've never had to suffer for anything really. And I'm not saying that we should have to suffer, but I'm saying that I don't see people being affected enough to take that strong enough action. And that's why I'm out here every week trying to find an A-team that we can find the people willing to stand up for their own causes. Number one, that can be the spark, the shot heard around the world that we can rally people around. And two, to train the people, to teach the people. Our enemies train every single day. Every cop, every attorney, everybody that is against us, they go to work and they train to be against us. And we sit around thinking we're okay. And we don't do anything to train and get better. And that's what I'm trying to do, is to create a plan, to create a platform for leaders to come together and create and share a plan that we can actually move this thing forward. And that's what this is all about.
Absolutely. And the big things that are going to come, and a lot of people have to look outside, and we have to, look inside of ourselves as well. What I see in me coming from, I'm originally a gun activist. That's my big thing. I was part of the New York State non-compliance that passed the SAFE Act in 2014, basically nullifying the ability to own a semi-automatic rifles with what they consider to be features. We bred a state of non-compliance here, and the accounts that they have is less than 2% of the entire state registered their firearms according to that act, and that still stands today. So 98% of the 700,000 people who had one or more rifles did not comply. Now that's ridiculously good, and I think that's the same kind of passion and power that this movement needs. And we need to have, more dialogue with people of other rights groups. We only fight for what's important to us, and that's where we fail short. You can like guns or you don't have to like guns, but you should honor someone's right to do so. You can like pot or you cannot like pot, but you should honor someone's right to do so. And the more commingling we do, the stronger we get. And a truce-free society, it's none of my goddamn business what you do, Joe. It doesn't matter what you own, what you do. If it doesn't hurt me, live your life. And that's what we got to get back to.
I couldn't agree with you more, Chris. And that's part of what this message is about is getting it clear and, hopefully inspiring people to go, yeah, you know what? You're right. And here's where they're doing it over here. And here's where they're doing it over here. We're a civil rights organization, not a pot group. And that's the most important thing for people to realize is that I don't want to specify what civil rights we're for and what we're not. We're for all of them. And if somebody is stepping on your right, they're oppressing you. That's just how it is. So I appreciate everything you're doing, Chris. And I look forward. I'm going to be out in Philly in a couple of weeks for a couple of days. But I'll probably be up at New York sometime this year. So I look forward to meeting you in person.
Okay, great. Well, I'll leave you with a plausible scenario if you want to do some leadership training and things. I do. I'll give you a send in my websites and stuff like that. But I teach everything from wilderness survival to firearms training. I mean, that's where I came from. I have a large piece of property where I do all kinds of training now on a daily basis. If you want to do a leadership training weekend or something like that, and you can get people to New York, I'll look it up. Oh,
that sounds like a good idea. I see a workshop or I don't know what you call it, a weekend seminar.
Retreat.
A camping,
Yeah, I see that happening. Well, let's talk more. I can see we got a lot of activity on the East Coast anyways, and all the lion's share of our new. All right, you do the same. Chris Birdsall, folks. A sponsor member of the Human Solution and a liberty activist. And that's, what we've got to break it down, and we've got to identify this isn't about pot. This is about us, and this is about liberty, and this is about you could substitute anything that's being overly denied, regulated, kept from you, that you have a right to. Simple. All right. I'm going to talk about real quickly, I keep saying it and I keep saying it and I keep saying it. And even though we think we've won, even though we think we're done, we're just getting our asses handed to us. And we're falling for inferior laws. We're falling for, we're getting brainwashed, actually. In California last week, there were 10 dispensaries that were raided in Riverside County, where I live in. And I had somebody come up to me and say, well, what's going on? I was like, well, they didn't have a proper licensing. So, I thought it was legal. Yeah, well, it's legal for those few people that are able to go through those hoops and pay those exorbitant fees and give to their state what's required. And that's a pretty small number of people. If you look at your state and actually see how many licensed places there are and how many people that are in your state and see what kind of a monopoly is actually being set up, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense if you're the one with the money and you're the one with that license. It's just the way it is, folks. That's what we voted for. But I know this, that there are countless unlicensed black market establishments that pop up over and over and again. And there are plenty of people that are growing more plants than they're supposed to have. And there's people making medicine that they don't have a license for. And there's people doing, in my opinion, the right thing, regardless of what the law says, as we have always done. And I want to consider this. What happens and what I've noticed is people are starting to get moral about this and judging things based on the law. And I want to expound upon that, because if you have a bad law, you're supposed to not follow it. Remember, in the United States of America, we've had laws that said it was okay to own another person. We've had laws that forbade women from owning property and voting. We had laws that allowed companies to basically have indentured servants working for them at one point. We've had laws that have caused a whole group of people to be locked up in an internment camp. We've had all kinds of laws that were horrible and should have been broken. And yet, here we are. We got another series of bad laws, and we got people being moralistic about them, going, well, if he had his paperwork right, it would be okay. And I implore you to pay attention and evaluate what would be okay. What is okay? Is it okay because it's legal, or is it okay because it's right? And is it where is it right enough to break the law because the law is bad enough to break? Where's your line? I want to know. Give me a call, 646-929-2495. Power corrupts, folks, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you've ever sat in court, and I have spent so many days in so many courts, you will know that the court is lopsided. It is so lopsided. And you have judges and prosecutors and lawyers and cops and all sorts of city and county people that are all sitting on one side. And then you got the wacky defense attorneys raking up all the bucks they can, and then you got the lowly public defenders and all of the defendants and their families sitting on the other side. Which do you think has more power? So when a cop comes up, any law enforcement agent, they're automatically qualified as an expert. When we bring experts, the judge has to establish their expertise, and the judge gets to call whether he's going to allow their testimony or not. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But every single time the cop is the expert. I have seen cops that have a so-called expertise in things that had nothing to do with what they were testifying about. Happens all the time. And guess what? You think juries listen to the cop when they show up in their fancy suit and tie with their little badge, or they show up in their uniform and they listen to their testimony? Oh, you bet they do. Well, just got a news flash today on the mainstream news. California Highway Patrol got caught cheating, lying about overtime, getting paid extra from your tax dollars for hours they didn't even work. Really? That sounds like corruption to me. That sounds like abuse of power to me. That sounds like somebody ought to get prosecuted. You think they will? Probably not. I want you to think about those people that are making decisions that affect your life. And what can we do? What should we do? And as Chris was saying, sometimes just being non-compliant is the right thing to do. Just not following a bad law is the right thing to do. Couple it with being effective and doing it in a way that doesn't cause a big ruckus. Hell, you could create a movement if you were at it good enough. The people that are in power, generally speaking, abuse that power. It's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been. I would hope that one day it wouldn't be that way. But that's why the utopian world doesn't work, because power corrupts and people are corruptible. And anytime somebody has authority over another, it seems that at one point they abused that authority. Not even going to talk about the Catholic Church and what's coming out of that right now. I grew up a Catholic. And when you look at the authority and power that a clergy member possesses to its parishioners, as a church-going Catholic, I was at one time, a priest carried all kinds of weight, and I respected everything about them. And heaven forbid if a bishop was to come to town, or a cardinal, and on to the infallible pope. And yet, what's coming loose right now? It's unraveling. What's unraveling is an abuse of power, plainly put, and the cover-up of that abuse of power. And it keeps happening, and it keeps happening. It happens in established organized religion. It happens in big corporations. It happens in governments. It happens in law enforcement. Every time one person seems to have power over another person or authority, teachers and students, it just keeps happening. So at one point, we have to own our own shit. At one point, this has to be on us. You can't put it in the hands of those people in power, because guess what? I hate to break it to you folks, they don't have your best interest in mind. They don't. All right, I'm going to take a minute. I got our Vice President, Lisa Wildridge, has got a couple of words she's going to say, and I'll be back to wrap the show up.
Hi, guys. Okay, so Joe's going to step away for just a second, and I'm going to sit here. So one of the things that Joe said is that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that's absolutely the truth. When I was a kid, my mom actually knew a judge, and one of the things that he said to my mom, because she had said, you know, hey, my daughter got a ticket. She made a U-turn in a business district. And he said, well, she can go before the judge, but it's all going to depend on what he had for dinner the night before and how happy his partner made him the night before. That's actually what he said, and he was a judge. He was a judge for the city of West Covina, California. So that kind of let me know right there that maybe we need to be real intelligent with what we call laws. Maybe the law is the flaw. Just because they say that cannabis is illegal, it's federally illegal, maybe that's the problem. Maybe it shouldn't be illegal. The question that I'd like to ask is, if no one, and that's no one, has ever died from cannabis, why all of a sudden do we need to have rules, regulations, fines, fees, and everything else to go along with cannabis? Because of the children? Hasn't killed them so far, hasn't killed anybody else. I'm a stage 3 cancer survivor, and yes, I used chemotherapy. Why? Because I was ignorant. I'm not saying that chemo is wrong. Chemo saved my life. I did not have time to find out how to heal myself with plant therapy, no matter what that plant therapy is. I didn't have time. So the chemo, their hardcore drugs, actually saved me. When you look down and your nipples turn black and inverted, you know there's a problem. So I used chemotherapy. I had a double deep mastectomy, and I ended up with a condition called lymphedema. When it came to the radiation, I said, I don't want to take all those big small harm drugs. So I started to research and investigate. I changed everything about me. I used to weigh 220 pounds. I ate whatever I wanted. I had smoked cigarettes up until about 6-7 months before I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. I changed everything. I worked in a chemical environment. I was a pool store manager. And I said, if I follow the same recipe, I'm going to get the same result. So I changed it all. One of the things that I found was cannabis, and I used the cannabis for the pain of the radiation. I did not know at the time that cannabis, through a motion called apoptosis and autophagia, actually helps cancer cells, which is a cellular imbalance, leave the body. It gently escorts them out and says, you're not needed here, you're out. So if we all had access to cannabis like we used to when it was back in the hemp and the cattle, the cows, the chickens, and the pigs, and so we eat the hamburger, we eat the chickens, we eat the eggs, we eat the bacon. When we ate the hemp, we had all these good nutrients in our bodies. Well, they took the good stuff out, which was the hemp, and then they put the GMOs in, which is the pesticides. So I changed the way that I live. I use the cannabis to prevent the cancer from returning. I use the cannabis instead of tramadol and gabapentin. When I learned how good the cannabis works, it's like, why not? It's real easy. It's the money. It's called pay to play. Again, I ask you, if no one's ever died from it, why all of a sudden do we need rules, laws, and regulations? It's easy. Remember that farm bill with the hemp in it? That's because the Senate guy is the Kentucky farmer. His constituents are tobacco farmers. So instead of nobody wants their tobacco, now he's going to let them grow hemp because they got to replace their crop. So that's the only reason that you got that, was because they're going to pay to play. And it's all about the pay to play. You got to have money to get into this. And that's bullshit. It's like the opposite of the beer industry. When they ended prohibition, which they had to do because nobody listened to him, he's absolutely right. Nobody listened. Everybody just kept doing it. And so what happens is, if nobody's going to adhere to the law, they have to change the law because there's not enough of them to catch all of us. And so with the beer industry, they had all these big breweries, Coors and Budweiser and Rainier and all these big dudes, but they didn't have all these small little artisan craft people. Well, now they do. Well, it's the opposite with the cannabis. You have mama and papas who have been growing and nurturing their plants and their land for years. They understand how this plant heals people from the inside out. There are many plants that help heal people. And the people that grow them and tend them have a love that is amazing. You have to just watch them and understand it. And we need those people because I don't know how to grow plants. I can push little buttons on a computer, but I can't grow a plant. So I need them to grow the plant that helps me to prevent the cancer from coming back. It's that easy. It just prevents it from coming back. And that's the biggest squirrel cage in my head, is I'm scared to death it's going to return because cancer takes you out. And it started in my lymph system. It didn't hang out in my breast as some little lump. It started in my lymph system, which means it was throughout my body. So when I use my cannabis, I know I'm doing the best that I can to prevent its recurrence. Why can't we all have it? We all need it. And the fact that they want to pay to play is baloney. They shouldn't be able to do that. They're trying to steal the industry. Wake up. They're trying to steal it from you. You'll never get it. You're going to end up paying $34,900 a year through your insurance at your pharmacy. You won't have a choice. You won't ever get the smell. And what? They don't want you to have CBD. What? CBD doesn't even get you high. They're ignorant, but they're not ignorant about how to get in your wallet and how to steal your money. It's called American greed. Remember, absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's all based on big pharma, big monopoly, American Chemical Association. Get on Netflix. Go watch the movie called Stink. Go watch the movie called The Devil We Know. Did you know that Teflon will kill your ass? It will kill you. And they took out the C8, and now they use something else. There is not a human being alive on this planet today that does not have Teflon in their bloodstream, and that's a fact. Anyway, Joe's back, and I'm out. So there you go. Cannabis saves. I'm out. You're in.
All right. So let's see. We got about a half an hour left of the show, and we got David and Michael, two Kansans, to talk. So we'll bring up David first, and then Michael, and we'll see who else pops up. So again, the question that I have, still haven't had anybody answer it yet. What do you say to somebody who says, well, what do you want from me? What's the answer? What's the answer, folks? How are we going to reach outside of our circle jerk? How are we going to get to reach people who don't know us and don't care about us? How are we going to get to them? Because they're the ones we need to reach. Just how it is. How are we going to do it? We need a plan. We need a real solid plan. David from Kansas, how are you doing? Welcome to the show. It's been a while. Haven't heard from you in a bit.
Yeah, it has been a while. I don't talk much because of all the surgery to my face and neck. But I have a couple things for you. I'm sure you're familiar with the Kansas for Safe Access Act.
I am. That's Lisa Sublet's bill.
Competitor this year that is no good. I mean, it really is messed up. They only allow sativa for one thing, and you have to have a doctor for 2 years before he can recommend it. Just a lot of bad things in it. Lisa of the City of Kansas was afraid they would identify our bill as a Democratic bill and this other bill as a Republican bill. So I started a new group called Kansas Republicans for Medical Cannabis.
Okay.
And so I will be posting a brief of this bad bill in just a little while. I've been working on it.
Excellent. Excellent.
And so,
Well, I think that's, unfortunately, we live in the most dysfunctional society that I've ever experienced. In a lot of ways, I feel like we're going backwards. We're going back to a much more polarized time that, we're supposedly fighting against. But it seems that the things that people on either side of the political spectrum will do to, it's all about gaining power. When you look at actually what Congress is doing or / not doing, it never has anything to do with us. It always has to do with them. It has to do with them getting more power rather than doing anything for or to us. And so I think that any way that we can take both sides of the political spectrum and say, look, we both want the same thing. Who's against it? And I think if we can put these types of causes, these types of legislation, that we can show that there's a true bipartisan support for it, that there is no good reason for it to still be scheduled. I think it's a good thing. So I support what you're doing. And if you can share your page over to the Human Solution or my public figure page, I would be glad to have it up there.
I'll send you a link in a message.
All right, that'll work too. That's assuming that I have to go to Messenger, which I seldom do, but I will do it for you.
I appreciate it.
All right, you betcha. All right, David. Well, I look forward to. Yeah, I look forward.
Kansas for Safe Access Act, desire. That way we can say this is not a partisan bill. This is bipartisan, and we support this because it's by patients for patients, not like some corporation that this representative has taken credit for. Their bill does not allow for home grows, and a lot of our patients are rural area people. We're out in the middle of nowhere. It's an hour to a doctor and back. So it's messed up. It's a lot of messed up things in it.
Well, I think that any legislation that doesn't allow a citizen to grow a plant on their own property or a property that they rent or lease is not a good bill. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to not letting somebody grow a plant on their yard. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, so not only a doctor can say after you've gotten the permission, the doctor gives you permission, but the Department of Health can sit there and say, no, you don't get it.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all. Well, I support freedom and liberty in every way that it comes. So please, share that link with me, and I'll make sure that others can see it as well.
I just did.
Awesome. Thanks, David.
So, yep, thank you.
You betcha.
You guys have a good night.
You do the same. All right. So now we got Michael from Kansas. Michael has been quite an activist lately, and he's been getting out there, getting political, which is in Kansas something that needs to be done. It's the good old boys club out there, and it's an interesting thing that they're totally okay with some kind of rights and not okay at all about others, and things that should not be in conflict. I can still remember a couple of years back when I was in Kansas, and I noticed people walking around with pistols on their belt, and it wasn't a problem. I didn't hear or see or hear of anybody getting shot, or didn't hear any shots fired at all. But I saw more guns on people's sides than I had seen in a long time, coming from California, where, anyways, it's another conversation. But so a right like that to possess and carry a firearm with you is one that, to me, I'm okay with. But why would those people that support that kind of right not support the right of that same very person to grow a plant, any plant, whatever plant it was? And the fact that we've allowed for these gun laws to make it to where you can't own a gun and grow cannabis without being illegal. Doesn't matter what your law says, you can't do those two things. You can legally own a gun, and you can so-called legally possess and cultivate cannabis, but you cannot do those two at the same time. Don't hear an outcry about that, except for on this show. Wondering why. All right, Michael Webb, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
How you doing, Joe?
I am doing fantastic.
Oh, man, riled up, that's for sure.
Good. It's about damn time. We need some riled up people.
You really don't have a time for everything we got going on out here. Suffice to say that the bill he's talking about fits everything you said has been wrong with the way that they're doing it. I mean, to the T, they're just trying to bend us over, and they ain't even hide it. You know what I mean? It's just that nobody's going to read that bill.
Right.
You just say, oh, my constituents, this is what they would want. They're Republicans or whatever. And, dude, trust me, bro, we are not having that. It's not going to fly. Wrong answer, bro. We have multiple ways to light this up, basically from the inside, from the outside, making it public. I mean, we're going to tear this thing apart.
Good.
And then, of course, you also know about I'm going to be meeting with the chief of police in a local in town to start talking about, these professionals that can't tell the difference between an 18,000-pound load of hemp and real marijuana. Things like that, like the obvious non-lethal amount of this, criminal justice reform. We're going to sit down and talk to them. I'm going to bounce some things off so that you kind of get an idea as we move forward.
Sure.
Moving up with higher people in office and stuff as we just run through them.
Oh, you bet. Well, I look forward to that.
Get real.
Good. Well, it's been exciting talking to you as this is all developing, but you and Sarah have been just tearing it up out there. And it's funny. I've had a number of people active in Kansas, but it seems that whenever the case du jour is over, that everybody sort of fades away back into the woodwork. But you guys are just on it and engaging the public, getting out there and getting an appointment to talk with the chief of police, and then going where you guys have gone, because I'm not going to announce what you told me about, but just by being present and talking to these people, you open up doors. I talk about it all the time about just showing up. If you show up, you're in a place where an opportunity can happen. And if you're in a place where the people that influence the situation are there, then you have a chance to influence them. And you won't otherwise. Yeah, you can make your call, you can send your letter, but if you're out there with them, they get a chance to look in your eye and see that you're not some, whatever it is that they're against. You see a regular old person standing there, cared enough to show the hell up That's worth 20 letters and 1,000 phone calls, because people just don't do it. And when you see that person not being a crazy whack job, but actually having an articulate points to make, that's what this is all about. Being able to drive a point home in a reasonable, articulate way without being some total fringe nut job that they go, up, let's just get him out and out of here. You guys are killing it.
Right. Yeah. Well, tomorrow I'm going to go down and get the paperwork started so that I can get that Republican chair appointment you were talking about.
Yep. I didn't want to throw anything down until it's yours to announce. So, but I'm excited.
I didn't know if that was something you wanted to get into or not.
Well, I say let's talk about it in depth when we get a little more development on it. We can have that be its own conversation. I like to touch on things one show and then dig deeper into them on a following show. But just really,
no problem.
Really pleased with the work you guys are doing. And again, it's having a little heart. It's the courage of a few to take action that makes all the change in the world. You go back to look at your history books and the major changes that have happened in all of humanity have happened because of the courage of a few every single time. And this is one way. You got Mike Harris standing up in the court in California. You got Chris willing to take him on in New York. We got Glenn and Peggy in Ohio standing up to him. It was me a few years back in California, stood up to him for 6 years. We got Steve Green stood up to him in Michigan. We got the Corbys stood up to him in NorCal. Everywhere we go, we got enough of them standing up, and it's the thing that it takes. We got to keep this thing moving. We got to push at them in every place there is to push, and don't take their shit when they try to shove it down your throat.
Hey, exactly. Hey, I was thinking about it. Isn't some of that stuff when they raid somebody and they just take it because they say it's an illegal grow or something? Can't you take that in front of a jury and have to get 8 out of 12, like a civil jury or something?
Well, here's the deal.
We need to start doing. We need to start bringing it in front of the people and just educate that jury specifically on what's really happening. You only got to convince a few, and it's over.
I couldn't agree more. I'm the guy that advocates take it to the box every time. To me, that's how to get change done. If every single person in America that got charged with any kind of drug crime said, you know what, take it to trial. And enough of us were to risk, as I did and so many others have done, risk that, people don't realize the pressure to take a deal is so overwhelming that most of the time they'll offer you a deal that does not involve prison time. And if you don't take that deal and you go and lose in a jury trial, you're almost guaranteed prison time. That's how they do it to you. And it just takes the courage of the people to say, you know what, forget about this. And then, like you said, following up with the civil suit, you win your case, they drop the case, go back and hammer their asses. That's what it takes. So I'm 100% looking for and advocating people to stand up and not be afraid to risk that. Our amazing screener, non-compliant Mary, she stood tall. She stood right up to them until they backed down. And when you stand up to them, I tell you what, probably 80% of the time I've seen, if you just stand up to them and say, fine, let's take it to trial, 80% of the time they'll back down at that last second. Sometimes right when you're ready to go select a jury, and that prosecutor will say, all right, never mind. But you'll never know because...
Dude, on the fourth day of trial, they came in and we wanted to change it all up. Like,
yep.
Wait a minute, man, no, sucker, you know what it is.
Yep, exactly. And they can do it. They can throw it away at any given second. Halfway through the trial, they can say, never mind. So that's what people don't realize. And that's what the human solution is about, is educating people on all the cards you have. You got an arsenal of rights that only exist if you're willing to use them. And they're going to take a little bit of courage. They're going to take some stones. But you know what? That's what this nation was built on, was a few people with some stones to stand up to a tyrannical regime. So That's what we're doing. We're doing it hopefully in a nonviolent way and doing it in a way that only brings positive effects. So that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. Well, I appreciate you calling in always, and let's keep going.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
I look forward to it. Hey, just in case somebody is in the Kansas, hold on. Just in case somebody's in the Kansas area and they want to get involved with the Kansas chapter of the Human Solution International, how would they reach you?
They can just go to the THSI or the Human Solution International Kansas chapter and just hit us up. They go to Dude Smell This. All you gotta do is find it on Facebook. Send us a message.
Excellent. Well, I encourage anybody that wants to get involved in making the change and pushing Kansas to a, who knows, maybe Kansas will be the one to completely decriminalize this plant before any other state does. That we could make it happen. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Mike. I will talk to you soon.
Yeah. All right. Good night, Joe.
All right. So remember, the courage of a few. That's what it takes to make change in this world. Most people want to follow. A handful of people want to lead, and plenty of people just want to cause trouble. If you want to lead, then step up and do it. If you want to follow, then step up behind a good leader. Either way is okay. There's plenty to be done. We need leaders and followers. But if you want to be a leader and you want to get into a program where we can share ideas and build a true plan that'll apply to you and the people that you're around, come and find me. I'm building the A-team. It's happening, and it's getting more solid, not less. All right, so we've got some new information on the website, and I have asked all of our leadership to submit a blog post. And this is one of the things that is a way that people can participate. You can share your thoughts and your ideas. And it's really easy. If you want to submit a blog post as a member or supporter of the Human Solution International, you can go and we have, let's see, I'm trying to see. I'm on the website right now. And, if you go to About THSI and there's a drop down and it says contact, I'm going to get that changed and there will be a contact button right on the main page. But anyways, just send an email with your blog post. Real simple. Anyways, Becca Nichols sent a blog post in. Actually, she wrote it and put it up herself because she's also the webmaster. But I think it's important. I want to share this because I don't think that the website gets nearly enough traffic. And so I'm hoping more and more people come and see that this is not Facebook. This is a place that is just informational, that is resources. It has the collective experience of this amazing volunteer organization over the last 10 years involved. So this is it. Legalization is our biggest threat, by Becca Nichols. I know that so many of my fellow cannabis activists who are elated as state-by-state recreational cannabis use is passed. I hear weekly about how we are on the road to ending cannabis prohibition, and all I can do is shake my head and speak my truth. Legalization has taken us further from the end of cannabis prohibition, not closer. A large number of advocates are being lulled into a false hope by the legalization movement. They've jumped into the pot of water and have no idea that it's getting warmer and warmer. And before they know it, the water's boiling and there's no way out. The same state government that decided cannabis is an inherently dangerous Schedule I drug with no medicinal value suddenly decided that it does have a medical use. State government didn't stop there. Once the government figured out that money can be made by selling it recreationally is when the true trouble started. Why? It's not a dangerous drug. If the state can make millions in taxes, in the end, it's the government once again controlling the market. How much cannabis we can have, what an appropriate age for consuming cannabis is, and where and what the consumers should buy and use. Giving yet more control to the government regarding cannabis is moving us farther away from ending prohibition and getting the government out of our daily lives. Don't be lulled by legislation. Instead, be scared by it. Run the other direction. If possible, do not support big pharma like dispensaries. Speak out against legislation. Speak up for a complete end to cannabis prohibition. Wake up. To be continued. Well, I'm super grateful that Becca took the time to put her thoughts into words and share them with us. And again, THSINTL.org. That's the website. There's a lot of good stuff there, and it's a way that you can participate. What do you want me to do? Well, that's what I want you to do. Go to the website, get involved, share your ideas, write your thoughts down, and share them with us so we can share them with the world. All right, folks, Tom Corby up next, and you know where we're at. Tom Corby, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, thank you, Joe, Lisa, Mary, Becca, all those on the front line coming together and prohibition. Northern California, as I report each week, we have very few, if any, cases left. Next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Heidi Lepp's going to trial in Marysville. That's 215th Fifth Street in Marysville, and requesting court support. Joe and I well know that we save our time and energy for when we actually go to trial, and that's what we do. We take them on to trial. The first days of a trial, it's just going to be jury selection. You can hardly find a seat. There might be 100 people in there. I don't think it's so important to have court support until the jury is picked. So, inspire anybody come out next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Marysville Health Court at Eddie and Heidi Lab, up for the usual cannabis-related charges. Frank, hands right here for you. That's one of the juries. And yeah, they have Bill Tully. They're coming in under the Sacrament defense, which we all know is very weak. They're also going to come with the doctors and the 215 recommendations. This is what gets the bacon. Thankfully, that we can still use our collectives and trial. So we wish them the best next week, and no one should go to jail for a plan. I'm here with Donna Corby, Frank and Ann today, and looks like Donna's going to be getting out next Wednesday.
Oh, good.
She'll be getting out. Yeah, she'll be going home. She might want to say a couple words. She's right here.
Hey, Donna, how you doing?
Yeah, still above ground and breathing.
That's what I like to hear. Well, you let me know if there's anything else you need. I've sent you a couple of things, but anything I have is available to you on me. Just let me know. I'm so glad to hear you talking.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to come up there and see you before too long. I've got a lot going on the next month, but I'm going to try to get up there and see you before the summer comes.
All right, Joe. Thank you, and for all the products that you're setting up for us, and all those today on the front lines. And don't forget to breathe.
Excellent. Well, Tom, you hang tough, and just know that we stand behind you guys. We're here for anything that you might need.
All right, we appreciate that.
All right.
Thanks all those today.
Tom Corby, folks, NorCal chapter. All right, so I got a minute or so left to close the show down. I'm not sure what happened to our guest, but hopefully she'll maybe join us next week. But I just want to remind everybody, you know, this is an important enough cause to get out there and do something about. We got some amazing people that are doing something. We got an active campaign going on to help Michael Thompson in Michigan, and I'll be talking more and more about that as it develops. But we got multiple members of the Human Solution, and we got Dee Dee Kirkwood, and we've got other organizations that are involved at the Lifer Museum, and I don't know why her name is just totally eluding me right now. But anyways, the dispensary that's involved with the Lifer Museum, amazing people, and we're all working together to help get this guy out. And we're going to continue asking for your support, writing some letters. And I'm saying, you know, this is worth stepping up and putting an effort into. Why not? Let's make a difference. All right, folks, Willie Nelson's going to tell us what he thinks about it all, and we'll see y'all next week.
Solution, supporting cannabis prisoners because no one should go to jail for a plant. The things I should have said and done, you were always on my mind. You were always on my mind.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.